Tracy Live. That
Hello.
guy. There's Larry. How are you, sir?
James, good.
Let me, we ran a little long with our previous guest, but I'm glad that we've got Larry Tracy in here with us. He, of course, is joining us here on the telephone, and we are going to go to Don Mazzella, who is also our co-host here on the big program. And so, Larry, you're retired U.S. Colonel. You're a debater. You're a. This is going to sound awkward to say, but you're a master debater, my friend.
That is, you gotta really be careful with your
I know.
well, actually, what it was, when my last 3 years or so in the Army, I was detailed by the White House to the State Department.
Yes.
For the primary purpose of debating the Reagan Central American policy around the country and college campuses. So all of my presentations basically were debates because they were with fairly hostile audiences. But
yes.
about 3 dozen of them were actual debates, one-on-one or panels with 3 people against me. So I have an appreciation for the pressure that debaters are under on that, and how to prepare for it.
One of the things that you have put together a lot of great knowledge and great background when it comes to debating. You've written a couple different books about this topic. Give me and Don your take on this. I guess you'd call it a debate the other evening.
Yeah. It's been described as a hot mess. That's the best.
Yes.
Well, and in fact, there's another description that I saw of a fellow named Aaron Bakshian, who used to be Reagan's principal speechwriter, and he was editor of a magazine called American Speaker, and he described it as a scuffle between 2 old guys at a nursing home.
That's exactly it. By the way, you and I have been on before.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, your book is terrific.
So,
Thank you.
So tell me and Don
sorry,
your.
I can't get it off my shelf, but I have to tell you, you got me a copy, and if you are in the mood for debating or you have to debate, you should read it.
Yes. Larry is an expert presentation coach, and he joins us today here on our broadcast. So Larry, this debate. What? First of all, what did you make of the way that the president acted? And then we'll get into the way Joe Biden, because...
Yeah, I'm a supporter of Trump, but I think he came across as a rude bully. And that doesn't play well in the living rooms of people around the country.
Yeah.
I think, however, a reason for this, not an excuse, I think he sensed early on that it was 2 against 1, because Chris Wallace was... definitely putting a thumb on the scale, and was letting Biden get away with a lot of stuff. But I also think that Trump did not prepare properly for this.
Yes.
He said he had Rudy Giuliani and Chris Christie working. I have the impression, and that's all his impression, that they just sat around having a bull session where they should have actually done a pro forma debate practice with one of them standing in, or getting a professional actor in and feed him in all the lines that they felt that Biden would be saying, and they were fairly predictable. So
yes.
I think that Trump brought a lot of this on by himself by not having a structured, rigid preparation for the debate. But it was frustrating for him, and then he interrupted all the time. And that's bad form. And all the debates that I participated in on policy matters, I never wanted to interrupt my opponent, because I didn't want to give him the excuse of interrupting me. And that's what an audience is looking for. They want an exchange, and you come back. And I had sort of an idea when I was getting ready for it. I had sort of a 4-word matrix, I guess you could call it, for how to go about. One was anticipate what your opponent is going to say, and then go on the attack. Be ready to counterattack what you have anticipated. And then if you can, pivot so that you take on one of their points and turn it to your favor. And this is something that served me fairly well in either one-on-one debates or in panel shows that I was on, because I normally was on with 3 people who were against me. And that served me pretty well. But I think a certain courtesy has to be shown, because there's an innate sense in the American people of fairness. In other words, 2 teams play on the field. Football team, they each have 4 downs. One doesn't have 4, and the other one have 5. And that's sensed in there. And I think rudeness and interrupting, well, it might be good show business. I don't think it plays well, and it didn't serve the president well either.
You know, I harken back to Ronald Reagan's first debate with Mondale, and everybody came away saying he was a befuddled old man. And then he came back in the second debate and buried Mondale with just one line. I will not take advantage of my opponent's youth. I feel strongly. I agree with everything you said. I didn't watch the debate. I find them at best to be a waste of time, and at worst to be disingenuous. But do you think he can recover himself?
Well, he can, but I'll tell you, there's another thing coming up. I just looked at who the new or the moderators will be for the debate. One of them was Biden's intern. He's on CNBC, Steve Scully. He seems like a rather decent fellow, but he worked for Biden. And the other person is Kristen Welker of NBC. She's in the White House press corps, and she's one of the more aggressive reporters. So my question is, why didn't the Trump campaign say, wait a minute, no, we want people who are neutral? And so he's going to be up against that again. Now, conversely, that
I can tell
could
you
work
the
in his
answer
favor.
to that.
Those 2 could lean over so much that they don't want to appear to be favoring Biden. But it's not a good setup right now.
No, it was not. And the Democrats would not accept anybody but Chris Wallace, and they would not accept anybody else. They according to my last remaining source in Washington, it really came down to it. It was that or no debates at all. And
yeah, well, that could be the situation. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
I just wanted to go back to the story on Reagan. There's an interesting story about that. I remember watching that first debate. I was in the Pentagon then, and Reagan was just fed so much information. One of his problems was he got his pronouns mixed up. They were talking about nuclear warfare and the fact that how we would respond to a Russian attack. And Trump was talking about intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, and bombers. And he said, and of course, once we launch them, we can call them back. Well, he was talking about the bombers, because once you launch an ICBM, there's no calling it back. And he got all confused. The press then referred to Mondale, because the debate took place in Louisville, Kentucky, and they started calling Mondale the Louisville Slugger. Now, getting ready for that next debate, everybody was very worried, and I got this sense from friends in the White House as well. And in came Roger Ailes, who later became president of Fox News, and he says in his book, You Are the Message, how this worked out, that he was the first one to say to Reagan, you know, Mr. President, we've got to face the fact of age, that they're going to bring that up on you. No one else wanted to bring it up to Reagan for some reason. And Reagan said, well, I have this line that I've used before, and that was the one about youth and inexperience. So that was Reagan's own line, because Ailes said when he heard that, he said, I told the president, keep that in your hip pocket. You're probably going to need it. And that turned the election around. If you look at the videotape, and it's been shown a lot, you see Mondale sort of laughing, and he knew at that point the election was over.
Yes.
We've got Larry Tracy with us today. He's an expert presentation coach. We're talking about the debate today with, of course, our good friend Don Mazzella as well. Larry, I want to get your take on the fact that I think Trump, I don't know if he did it because he just kind of backdoored his way into it, or if he had been given notes, or what was going on here, or he listens to a heck of a lot of talk radio. What one of the two, or one of the three. But he managed to get Joe Biden to disavow Medicare for All and disavow the progressive Green New Deal. And as soon as he did that, I noticed there was all sorts of people on social media that are Bernie supporters and the like, who were like, well, I'm not going to support Biden now. Did he do this? Did he do this on purpose, or did he just kind of backdoor into a debate strategy here, or?
Well, I tell you, when I heard Biden back off of that, this is the idea of the old Biden, who I used to observe when I'd go over to Senate Foreign Affairs Committee hearings, who was very engaging, very sharp, and the new Biden, who isn't. But I don't think the extreme left, Kamala Harris and AOC and the others, really mind that too much. All they want to do is ride the Trojan horse into the White House. And once they get into the White House and all the leftist ideas spill out, they can just give Biden a glass of warm milk and tell him to take a nap, and then they'll take over. So I don't think that will. Where are they going to go? Or they say, oh, I didn't like what Biden said, therefore I'm going to vote for Trump? No, they're going to vote for Biden because they know that's it. And he just has been struggling to be president for so long. This is like an Academy Award where they give an actor who's never won the Oscar a Lifetime Achievement Award, and that's what it would be for Biden. And they'll ride him in, and this is such a different Democrat Party. But I'll tell you, my biggest complaint about Chris Wallace the other night was he asked a really good question about expanding the Supreme Court and doing away with the filibuster. And Biden he gave the most evasive answer I have ever seen. I didn't think Chris Wallace would let him get away with it.
And he did.
If we do away with the filibuster and we pack the Supreme Court and then bring in Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico as new states, that's going to make this country a one-party dictatorship. And I've lived in countries like that, Argentina and Bolivia. And the opposition or minority parties have absolutely no voice. They're just steamrolled. And is that the kind of a country we want? I wonder if that's even the kind of country Joe Biden wants. But I don't think he's in charge of the show. So this would be just absolutely terrible if that happens. And it goes against the grain of, well, the Democratic Party in 1937. FDR tried to expand the court. The Republicans had virtually no voice at that time, but the Democrats were responsible compared to the senators now. FDR had 80 Democrat senators, and they blocked FDR from expanding the court. With this group that's in there now, they'd love to do that.
Yes, yeah.
So I think that's what makes this election so absolutely vital.
Well, I'm going to ask you the $64 question. Do you think President Trump will win?
God, what was that?
Do you think Trump will win, Larry?
What I just didn't hear that.
Do you think Trump will win the election, Larry? I think we might be losing Larry on our. Larry, can you hear me, my friend? Can you hear me?
No, I did not hear the last part of your
question. Will Trump win? I think we're having some technical issues with Larry. Let's do this. Let's
back off of the question.
Yes.
Larry, do you hear us? I have trouble with Don's question. Maybe James, you could.
Okay. I think maybe you're having some phone difficulties because this seems to happen. This happened on Tuesday when we had IQ Al Rizzoli. We had all sorts of technical issues. Larry, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah. I hear
you. Okay. Don was wanting to know, do you think Trump will win?
I think it's a toss-up. The way I would predict it at this point is that he will have a big, hefty win on November the 3rd. and then we wait for all those ballots to roll in, whether they're honest or not.
Yep.
Now, my wife and I live in a condo which is, I would estimate, 95% Democrat. So we'll go down with a big smile on Wednesday morning, but it will be a cautious smile. And I will probably say to my Democrat friends, no, I'm not overly confident, because I think that to paraphrase Senator Feinstein, the dogma of Mayor Daley lives deeply within the Democratic Party, and he'll find some way to shift things around. So at most, I would say it's 50-50. But let me tell you about an email I got from a friend of mine. He lives in the Pittsburgh area. He's a lawyer and a former Special Forces officer. And he said he and his wife went out to do a yard sign count, and they were going to count how many signs there were for Trump. And he said after a while they just gave up counting the signs for Trump. There were so many, and they started counting them for Biden. And he said it was about a 20-to-1 ratio on that. I remember James Carville said that Pennsylvania was Philly in the east, Pittsburgh in the west, and Alabama in between. Well, his impression is that the borders of Alabama are moving very, very close to Pittsburgh. So you're going to have a real mixed result in my old state. And see, I grew up in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is 15 miles north of the world's most famous basement. And I've always thought whenever I would see Biden, he reminded of me and my friends, Irish Catholics, quick with the quip and the word, although he's a far different type now. So I don't know where. That's going to be the key state. Another key state is going to be Florida. And I have Cuban-American friends in Florida who have told me that they're thinking that Dade County could, for the first time since Reagan, go Republican. And the northern part of Florida, that's more like Arkansas and Georgia, and a lot of military up there as well. So it's a good chance for Trump to take Florida. But the Midwestern states, I just don't know.
Can I just jump in with an interesting stat from the Jacksonville paper? The Democrats have always had outnumbered Republicans in this in Florida and registered, but for the first time in this century and for 20 years before that, it has the lowest plurality of Democrats and Republicans in recorded history. So, in other words, there are more Republicans. The number of Democrats that outnumber Republicans is the lowest point in the last 45 years, which I found
true.
I find that interesting, and I find I have a friend. I lived in New Jersey all my life. I'm now in Florida, and I have a friend who says New Jersey is a state that's a blue state, but I'm betting that it's going to be 53-47 for Trump, against Trump.
Let's hope you're right.
Well, not for Trump, I'm sorry, but it's going to be much closer than people think in New Jersey. But the problem is people simply don't want to admit that they're for Trump because they get shouted down.
With Florida, the interesting aspect of it is that since the last election, so many Venezuelans have come in. And of course, there have always been the Cuban Americans and Nicaraguans. I just hope that a lot of them got their citizenship so they can vote, because what I'm hearing from my friends in the Miami area, the Cuban Americans, that there's a real fear that the country that they fled to is going to be very much like the country they fled from. And that'll drive a lot of them there. He may not win Dade County, but if he narrows the margin, in fact, that was one of my indicators in 2016 when I was watching the vote come in, that Hillary Clinton just did not win Dade County the way I thought she would. And I knew what the northern was, that, as I say, Arkansas, Georgia, northern Florida are very much the same. So that'll be the first indicator to look at. But the fly in the ointment right now is these mail-in ballots. You don't know how many of them are going to get through. how many waivers will be given on the requirements and how to fill it out. Now, we live in Maryland. That means our vote really doesn't count at all, whether we mail in or we go to the ballot box. This is as blue as you can find around here. But I would love it to be a landslide on Tuesday night, so that the mail-in ballots really don't mean that much. But there is such a hatred for Trump that you cannot count on anything out as to what they'll do.
But Larry, if you look at his record, you just look at the Mideast. We've been hearing politicians talk about you can't do this in the Middle East, and he did two things: move the embassy and get two other Arab states to recognize Israel. To me, those are major accomplishments.
They are indeed. Now, they never came up the other night, and the Nobel Prize nominations he's gotten, but foreign policy wasn't one of the subjects. Trump's got a perfect opening to say, you were in there 8 years, you never did it because of the way you treated Netanyahu.
Yeah.
Netanyahu one time was left waiting in the White House by Obama for something like a half an hour. You don't treat a chief of state that way. And hopefully that will go through. And they might have something before Election Day. There's rumor that there will be some other countries coming in. It would be great if it would be Saudi Arabia. That would be terrific if they would sign on as well. But you don't find much in the press about that.
Oh God, no.
And they mocked the idea of the Nobel Peace Prize, yet Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize for being elected president. He hadn't done anything yet, and he got it. Which tells you more about the Nobel Committee than it does anything else.
Oh, yeah. Most prizes nowadays, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Not what you did, it's who you know on the committee.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if you noticed, I have to read the New York Times, but the Times did not even mention the fact that Biden walked back on the two issues. If you look at it, their coverage, they didn't even mention it.
Well, there's a radio host in the Washington area named Larry O'Connor, and he has an interesting point. No, it wasn't. It wasn't him. It was Chris. I can't think of his last name right now, but he said the greatest power of the press is the ability to ignore, and that seems to be they're sort of a self-censoring organization.
Absolutely.
Just imagine if Obama had been put in for it, or Biden for his work, that would have been all the headlines. But they don't want to do anything that will help. The role of the press has really been terrible here, and I think they feel they're doing God's work if they get rid of Trump. And that they rationalize it all.
No, unfortunately, you're right. I don't know if you saw, there's a wonderful column a week ago in the Wall Street Journal, op-ed piece by Vance Morrow, which really brought all of it.
I remember reading specifically that one. Yeah, I didn't know that Lance Morrow was still around. No, but that was a brilliant piece. The Wall Street Journal, I get it digitally, and I go to the opinion page right away because I like to hear what the editorial board is saying, and they've been pretty tough on Trump with Just Cause, and certainly Kimberly Hassel and Dan Henninger do terrific columns on that. I get the Washington Post and the New York Times, and I basically just go to the sports page anymore. And even that's not very good anymore because I haven't watched an NFL game in 2 years, ever since they started kneeling with the national anthem. I lost too many friends in Vietnam who were defending that national anthem to put up with that stuff.
Couldn't agree with you more. Could not agree with you. I gave up my season tickets. Could not agree with you more. It's well, let's go sideways for 1 minute. Is it possible? I had this discussion. I have no children, so I can't, really speak to it. But it seems to me every generation is always worse than the current generation. But it just seems to me that this generation just is, isn't prepared to face the world. I mean, they're age 28 and they're still living with their parents. Things like that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I can say I find nothing to disagree with that at all. It's just such strange times we're in. But, just going back to the debate, one of the opportunities that I felt that Trump really lost was when Biden comes up with that stuff about we handed you a booming economy and you blew it. Well, Trump is not a word person, but he's a numbers guy. He could have so easily come out and compared the Dow Jones and 401ks related to it in January 17 to what he did by the end of 2019, as well as the unemployment rate, especially among blacks and Latinos, and just quash that idea. But he never really addressed it except to say we had the greatest economy of all time. Well, you put numbers to that. You need to nail it down with specifics. And I hope they bring that up again.
That's true. I mean, we had all these people we had 92 million people that had given up looking for a job, if you remember that number. And now they've all disappeared. Well, they're back because of COVID. But now they're being paid, what is it, $800 a week or something, not to work. I mean, you're right about that. I didn't see the debate, but I was surprised. If I were Trump, and Wallace never asked the question, what have you accomplished?
Yes.
I mean, Trump, if you think about it, what has he done? The economy, the judges, this, that, and the other. I mean, he's done it.
All right. Can you hear me?
We've got Larry Tracy with us today. We've also got Josh Bernstein, who's just joined us. We've also got Don Mazzella as well, and we've been chatting about the debate here. Larry, before we let you go, how do we find you online and get your book and everything else, Larry?
Well, I'm developing a new website right now. I haven't finished it yet, but the book, which is called Bring Home the Bacon, can be found on Amazon. I